we'll get started if you're okay, Ashleigh.
Absolutely, yes.
Cool. So hi everyone, welcome to CodeBase on the Couch. Today we're joined by Ashleigh Gallacher from QA. My name is Vanessa. I'm based up in Aberdeen for One CodeBase. And so today we're joined by Ashleigh. She's been with QA for 2.5 years. And today she's going to be talking about closing the skill gaps in the digital industry. So I'll just pass over to Ashleigh.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining me, and thank you to CodeBase for having me. Just to set a bit of an agenda, I suppose, for this afternoon. So I'll start by giving you a brief overview of QA, if you aren't familiar with us and what we do, the various solutions that we offer. I'll then focus on how we can help individuals and organisations right now, and give you a bit more information on what the market is telling us just now. At the end of it, there will be an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have, so please keep them for us and give me something to answer. So, the digital skills gap is something that's often spoken about in sort of HR, L&D worlds. It affects even the most technically advanced countries in the world. We aim as a business to play a role in essentially reducing that skills gap. So QA are the largest digital skills business in Scotland. We've actually got 20 training centres throughout the UK. Scotland specific, we have Edinburgh and Glasgow. Every day we basically are fortunate enough to be able to empower people to fulfil their potential, building confidence and breaking down their barriers to opportunity. So you're probably wondering how we do that. So the first part of our business is the learning side of our business, where we would train people on emerging technologies and having the skills to support these. We've got over 1,500 courses. There's a vast array of different types of courses, but probably the most popular includes cloud technology, so your Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, as well as sort of Agile, DevOps, AI, big data, that sort of thing. Obviously, given the current situation, the most popular courses that we're seeing just now are including training on remote working and the technologies that support remote working. So, for example, your Microsoft Teams, etc. And this is the largest part of our business. The next section of the business is consulting. So, we've just recently expanded this side of the business into Scotland from down south in the last kind of year or so. The purpose of this is to find diverse talent and develop them in hard to come by skills such as DevOps, software engineering, etc. It's basically an immersive 12-week training course at our QA Academy. I think the first one in Glasgow is running on the 15th of June. So once trained and certified, these individuals will then be deployed to organisations to fulfil immediate skills gaps. Short term, this will act as a cost-effective alternative to using contractors, for example. And long term, it's a way to develop your own talent within the business. So if anyone is interested in hearing any more about the learning or consulting areas of the business, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my details at the end of today with my email address and phone number, and I'll pass you to the relevant person that deals with that side of the business. The final part we have here is apprenticeships, and this is the area of the business that I operate in. So what I'll do is I will talk you through this. I'll then move on to how you can use the funding that we receive from Skills Development Scotland to upskill your existing staff. I'll then provide a sort of high-level overview of the programmes that we offer, and then move on to how the course is structured. So apprenticeships, obviously, are organisations hiring young talented individuals that are 16 to 19 predominantly into their business. So it's office-based apprenticeships that we offer in areas such as digital marketing, business administration, IT, project management and data analytics. Typically we focus on 16 to 19-year-olds who have limited or no work experience, no preconceived ideas of how things should be done, no bad habits, and that allows you to effectively shape and mould them into the individual that you wish them to be, your processes, etc. It's a great way of growing your headcount in a cost-effective way. So the minimum apprenticeship wage is £4.15 per hour, and the average apprenticeship salary at the minute, I would say, is roughly between £10,000 and £12,000. The idea of an apprenticeship is that the individuals that you bring into the business would take menial tasks off your hands, frees up your time to focus more on the business, growing the business in what is, already a pretty difficult climate at the minute. So, as I said, obviously you can use that funding to upskill your existing staff, and we receive this from Skills Development Scotland. So this is government funded training. You can use it to upskill the existing staff within your organisation if you work in, say, HR, L&D, you're perhaps a marketing manager, IT manager, etc. Or you yourself might be interested in personal development. You may be, for example, a marketing exec who's looking to get more experience in the digital side of marketing. It's available to everyone of all ages at the moment, and it's been moved online to accommodate for home working, which is ideal. Now, we've done this via remote visits, virtual classrooms, that sort of thing. We've had the technology in place prior to lockdown. It's going really, really well. Our NPS scores have actually went up, believe it or not, since we've moved to working from home, so that's really, really positive. The only thing about this training is that it's not available to anyone who is currently furloughed. Now, the reason for that is that it's obviously government funded, and as part of this you would sign a training agreement which would state that you would be able to see the programme through to the duration, and while you are on furlough, your job would technically be deemed at risk, which is why you cannot go on it when you're furloughed. However, you can obviously take advantage of it when you do come back from furlough. I don't think enough people do know about the funding available to them, so it's great to be able to use this platform to raise a little bit of awareness about what you can do. So if we move on to the programmes that we offer, the first one is digital marketing. Now, this is a classroom offering. It's a level 6 qualification, which translates to a HNC equivalent. There's up to 6 weeks of classroom training with this. It covers off search engine optimization, pay-per-click, Google Analytics and Classroom. And I should obviously state that classroom training is all virtual at the minute, so it can run as usual. The course covers email marketing, social media campaigns. You've also got graphics and video editing tools such as Adobe, all covered in the content of this programme. We have an alternative to that, which is digital marketing online offering. This is also a level 6 qualification. The difference with this is that it has no classroom training, so you work through the course very much at your own pace. Now, the course will cover similar things, but also things like authority and influence, strategies and business objectives. You would still be assigned a dedicated assessor with this, the same as the classroom offering, but the difference is that there's just no classroom training. And then the programme we have over here is digital applications. So this is also a level 6 qualification. It's suitable for really any office-based role where the individual is using collaborative technology to complete administrative tasks. I think pretty much any role has an element of admin to it, so it can pretty much be tailored to anything. There's 2 weeks of classroom training with this, covering things like Microsoft packages really in depth, antivirus, GDPR and minor PC fixes. I should also say, when I mention collaborative technology, so for example, if you use a CRM system and you also use Microsoft packages on a daily basis, or something like Sage, then that would apply to this qualification. If we move on to our IT programmes next, so the first one that we have there is IT professionals, which is for any IT support or help desk roles. You can do this as a level 6 qualification, but there's also a level 8 option, which translates into a HND equivalent. There's up to 5 weeks of classroom training to choose from for this. It's entirely up to you how much or how little you wish to do. We would obviously encourage you to do as much as possible to learn as much. This includes things like Windows 10 with an introduction to Azure, installing and configuring Windows Server 2012, installing and configuring Windows Server 2016, etc. The next one is software and web development. again with the level 6 and level 8 qualifications, and you have 2 pathways that you can follow with this depending on what suits your business best. So there's open source and there's .NET. Again, you have an option of however much classroom training you want to utilise. You could do PHP fundamentals, you could do PHP advanced, Python, or you could go for .NET, do .NET fundamentals, .NET advanced, etc. The final one is information security or cyber security. This is only available as a level 8 qualification. It covers all that interesting stuff, so ethical hacking, penetration testing, cryptography, that sort of stuff. And it comes with 2 weeks of classroom training. So that's CompTIA Network Plus and CompTIA Security Plus. Now, these are obviously included in the training that we, obviously with the funding that we receive from Skills Development Scotland. Commercially, CompTIA Security Plus and CompTIA Security Plus are anything from £2,500 upwards. So it's really, really good quality stuff that you're getting in there. And there are also other programs available. So project management is something that we offer, and data analytics. These are quite in-depth courses, so for that reason, the funding doesn't quite cover them, so there would be an employer contribution required for them. So yeah, I suppose the next part that I wanted to move on to was what skills are in demand, what is the market saying? So from my experience, I would say that definitely data analytics and project management are increasing in popularity and have done so quite a bit in the last 2.5 years I've been with the business. The majority of IT teams that I speak with are already kind of highly skilled individuals, but they don't have any formal qualifications in information security. Obviously, since GDPR's come into play, this is something that's really been of interest to them, and that's where we're seeing the most benefit to IT teams. If I go back to marketing, so a lot of the learners I have on a marketing programme just now have actually been to university. So they've studied typically events, business, international business, maybe even marketing too at university, but they really felt that, and the kind of feedback that I'm getting is that it really lacked the digital element, which I was really, really surprised at. So a lot of them have been using the training that we offer to upskill themselves, whether they have a qualification or not. That being said, we can also put people who've never had a marketing qualification or never studied it onto programme too. And if I go back to digital applications again, it's quite flexible to any role, as I mentioned before. So I have individuals in finance, HR, recruitment, administration, contact centres that all are able to take advantage of this. It's a digital skill that can effectively translate into any role, and it's great for your CV for the future. So I want to give you a little bit more information into the content and structure of it. So how does it actually work? So your assessment methods, it's not your traditional writing a big long essay, bibliography, referencing, all that sort of stuff. There's a number of different ways you can be assessed. So it would be a personal reflective statement, questions, witness testimonies, and observations in the workplace, obviously under normal circumstances. The programmes themselves would typically take anything from 9 to 12 months to complete, based on 1 hour per week of study, and that would be during your working hours. Given the current situation at the minute, we are seeing learners complete quicker than that, just because naturally they're going to have more time to dedicate to their work. You can select units that best suit the learner's role and really, really tailor the programme to you, your business, and what you're doing. You would be assigned a dedicated assessor, and they'll be with you for the duration of the programme. They'll have contact with you every 5 weeks that will be staggered between a face-to-face visit and a remote visit in a normal setting. Again, given the current situation, we have moved all of them online via remote visits. The final part is that they are work-based and they are evidence-based. So what I mean by that is that you do have to be in employment in order to complete one of these qualifications. And when I say evidence-based, basically what I mean there is that if you are in a marketing role, but you're just interested in cybersecurity, unfortunately, it's not something you would be able to do, because you will be asked throughout the course to submit evidence demonstrating your understanding and that you're actively doing these things in your role, and obviously you wouldn't be able to do that. So I suppose I wanted to kind of cover off why you should do this and why it is a benefit to your organisation or you as an individual. As I mentioned already, you know, it is government funded. It's a really cost-effective way of either bringing new talent into your business or upskilling your existing members of staff and ultimately freeing up your training budgets to be spent elsewhere. Again, all of our programmes have been set up remotely, so they're ideal for anyone who is currently working from home. It is a great way also to keep staff engaged, perhaps when we are at home and we're not having that human interaction day in, day out. Countless studies that I've read obviously have found that investing in your staff does help to keep them feeling valued and therefore less likely to leave the business. So that's, you know, just a no-brainer really. And ultimately having a highly skilled workforce will allow the business to thrive again, hopefully in the coming months. So that is everything. So thank you for listening to me. I hope it was insightful in some way. I've popped my contact details on there, just if anyone has any questions that maybe they forget and come back to later, or they want some more information sent across to them. But yeah, so I think we can take some questions now if anyone has any.
Great, thanks so much, Ashleigh. A bit of
Thank
a
you.
virtual applause.
Thank you.
I think. Yeah, if anyone has any questions for Ashleigh, if you just want to pop it in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, we'll get through them and I'll read them out. But yeah, thanks so much for that, Ashleigh. Have you got any kind of like real life like success stories of like apprentices that you've placed into businesses?
Yeah, God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, we've had individuals, for example, that have moved into, in a few years, into marketing manager positions, which sounds like it's too good to be true, but it really, really is. For example, I had an individual who started university, was studying politics at Glasgow University, really, really didn't like the structure of university. And we get that a lot. People don't want to, you know, sit in a lecture or tutorial and sort of be dictated to. They're hands-on people who just really wasn't enjoying it. We placed him into a role. So he started off as an administrator, found a love for marketing from just doing little bits and bobs admin wise for the marketing team, and is now sort of heading up marketing for the company. We put him on a marketing course after the digital applications. So it's just stories like that. You'll also get, you know, young people who, not just on the qualification and the promotion side of things, entered businesses as really timid, quiet individuals and have totally come out their shell with all the support that they've received from, you know, their employer. We've got people, for example, in HR roles now that applied for digital applications, moved into a HR role, would never have considered HR as a career before this, and are now fully on board with going through their CIPD and working their way up the ladder. And, you know, that's something that they would never ever have considered before. You know, most people fall into HR, they don't start off a career. So yeah, there's loads of good stuff. So many success stories from it, which is
interesting how people can just like kind of come out of university and then just fall into like different roles and end up finding kind of their passion through that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think obviously as well from the apprenticeship side of things, you know, people are starting apprenticeships at the age of 16 to 19. So perhaps by the time maybe even some of their friends have finished university, they've maybe already had a promotion and stuff. It's not for everyone. You know, some people would prefer to go to university and that's all right, but I think it's good to offer the alternative of apprenticeships for people who are perhaps a bit more hands-on.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Yeah, just if anyone has any questions, make sure that you pop them in, and we'll get to them. But yeah, there was one thing that I kind of wanted to ask was like, what's the kind of like application process, you know, from a business side and also from an individual side? Like, what's the kind of like process in kind of getting, you know, onto a program or getting an apprentice to come to their business?
Okay, so I'll start off with bringing an apprentice into the business. So from the candidate's perspective, we advertise on a whole host of apprenticeship relevant job boards, so apprenticeship.scot, not going to uni, etc. And that's typically where we would see a lot of our candidates coming in from. You know, they'll see a job advert and they'll be interested and they'll apply to us. We also have a dedicated engagement team, and they go to a number of events in a normal situation, obviously. So they go to schools, careers events, job fairs, that sort of thing, to raise awareness of what we do. And that obviously attracts in people too. So again, from the candidate perspective, that's how we would bring them in. And we follow quite a lengthy 5-stage process of conducting a telephone interview with the individual to sort of find out why they want to do an apprenticeship, why specifically marketing or IT or whatever. And then if they sound good on the phone, they sound genuinely interested, then we'll invite them in for an apprenticeship day. So we host these usually once or twice a week, and again our engagement team will sort of deliver a presentation to the young people about what an apprenticeship looks like, the differences between college and uni, how it will work, the structure, etc., so that they really can make an informed decision about whether it's really something they want to do. They'll then sit a test, which is a SCQF level 5, which is the level below the qualification that they would be studying, just to make sure that they do have the basis to continue on with that study at the next level. And then the final part of that would be a one-to-one interview, where again our engagement team would just drill down a little bit more about where they see themselves short-term and long-term, what skills they have relevant to the role, etc. And at the end of that is typically when they would be put in front of a client to conduct interviews, and then proceed with their preferred candidate. From the businesses side of things, I suppose we speak with a lot of businesses up and down the country, so we're regularly making people aware of how they can utilise this funding. We've got some clients we've got fantastic relationships with. I mean, one of my clients, for example, has over 40 apprentices historically, which is amazing for a Scottish company. So yeah, we're in touch with businesses regularly. We would obviously just take a thorough description of the job. We would usually go out and see the premises and really get to know the client and make sure that we were tailoring everything to them and we have a good understanding so we can help them. Other than that, obviously it's just a case of them selecting their preferred candidate, and from there starting them off in the same kind of structure that I mentioned before. When it comes to upskilling existing staff, usually we would have inquiries where I can maybe send over a bit more course information, and that would usually be the starting point. So we have more in-depth course content than what I've provided today. We would usually send that over, and we would have to complete a funding check for any individuals that are interested in training. So that's just basic information that we need. So name, date of birth, national insurance number. And the reason we take that is so that we can check that that individual is eligible for funding, even though they may meet on the surface the requirements. So it's just to make sure that they haven't completed a programme in the same industry at the same level previously. So we run a funding check for them to make sure they're eligible. And other than that, it would really just be, again, an opportunity to understand the business, understand the individual that's going to be taking up the course and what their day-to-day job looks like, to make sure that when I pass the information on to the assessor, they are fully equipped and informed to be able to help that person pick units that sort of best reflect their role. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer.
That's fine.
Bet you're glad you asked.
So is there like a number of a limit to how many apprentices a business can kind of ask for, or is it just as many as they need, or how does kind of that work?
So we're actually really fortunate, I think, in Scotland that it's government funded. It's slightly different in England. They have the apprenticeship levy that organisations pay into, and they use that pot to spend on apprentices, etc. So in Scotland there's nothing like that. You don't have to have a set amount of employees, a set wage bill, nothing like that. So you can have, it's actually really good for businesses that are starting up that perhaps, say for example, don't have anyone looking after their marketing, but can't really justify bringing in an experienced marketing individual. So they can bring in an apprentice that can learn all the skills and sort of work their way up. So yeah, there's no restrictions on how many you can take. It's entirely up to you how many you can have. The more the better, obviously.
Yeah. We've had a question come in on the Q&A chat. It says, are there any skills that people ask you about that you don't currently offer courses for, but you might do in the future? Just wondering what trends look like at the moment for the kinds of skills training people are looking for.
That's interesting. Thank you for that. So I would say in terms of apprenticeships and stuff, we as a business are always open to hearing what people are looking for. So to give you a bit of an insight, for example, I personally work with a number of law firms throughout Glasgow and Scotland. A couple of them had sort of mentioned previously about paralegal apprenticeships. Now, there's not a lot of places that do that, so we've kind of got a rule of thumb that if at least 2 clients ask us about something, we'll look into it, and if we think it's worthwhile doing, then we will pursue it further. So the feedback generally, for example, from law firms was that, yeah, it's absolutely something they would be interested in doing. They do take a lot of grads, but it might be good to bring someone in at that level too. So that's something that I've seen personally. I'm trying to think. We will obviously get people asking about things like, do you do finance-specific apprenticeships? We did used to do a providing financial services qualification, but I think that was mostly for things like debt recovery, that sort of thing. And we were seeing quite, I would say, high drop-off rates from it, not because of the programme, but just because of the nature of the job being a high turnover job. And what I've probably not explained earlier in the call is that our contract with Skills Development Scotland and the amount of places that we receive each year is very much determined by our achievement rates, our withdrawal rates from programme. We want to provide high quality programmes that people complete. And those figures are high and we have to protect and maintain that. So, that's when we'll weigh up things like, is this proven effective for people, sort of thing. So I would say probably finance. Obviously on the legal side, paralegal apprenticeships have definitely been mentioned. I can't think of anything else necessarily that we're missing the mark with, but if you've got any suggestions, please feel free to let me know and I'll take it to our team.
Sure. Are you kind of constantly reviewing kind of like courses, like topics, like on a regular basis, or are you just kind of like seeing kind of what's on the market, what's in demand more than anything?
We're reviewing stuff all the time. So some of the programs that I mentioned to you earlier have been updated recently to account for changes. So for example, Windows 10 with the introduction to Azure is relatively new. Prior to that, it was all very much about Windows 7. With us being a technology business, we obviously have to keep innovating to keep up, particularly in the IT and digital side with changing technology. So yeah, the course content is obviously regularly reviewed. All of our assessors as well are, highly experienced in their area. So it's not the same assessor that you would have, for example, for digital marketing as what you would have for IT. They're all industry experts. So yeah, they are good at obviously keeping their knowledge up to date as well, which is really important when they're delivering the qualification to you.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for that question. That's actually
yeah, it was a really good one.
Yeah, it was. And so what kind of options, if people aren't in jobs at the moment, kind of looking for a bit of a career change, like are there any kind of options for them through yourselves of kind of like upskilling themselves when they're not necessarily kind of in a job?
So in terms of the apprenticeship side of things and the funding that we receive, unfortunately you do need to be in employment in order to utilise that. Again, going back to that sort of evidence-based part where your assessor would come out and visit you in the workplace and you would have to be able to evidence you completing tasks for that business. So in that side of things, I would say no. Where perhaps people could utilise our services would be on the learning side. So I've spoken to a few people that I know about this who are maybe furloughed at the minute and think they're going to lose their job at the end of it, or maybe just not working just now. We do offer courses, and I would say, given the current situation, there have been discounts applied to the courses and things like that. So there's project management courses, there's, as I said, loads and loads of IT stuff, iTool, which I'm currently doing just now, just to upskill myself whilst at home. Loads and loads of different stuff at fairly reasonable prices, I would say. So as much as it might have a cost to it, I would say as long as the benefit outweighs that, then yeah, there's probably something they can offer. There's over 1,500 courses, so I don't see, you know, why there wouldn't be.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something for everyone
Yeah.
out there. Cool. So you kind of talked about kind of like the classroom, which, you know, we can't really do at the moment, and then the online kind of courses. Like, how do they kind of work in terms of like start dates with a particular kind of start dates that they need to meet, or is it just, you know, you apply, or is there kind of cutoff marks, or how does that kind of work?
So I suppose the good thing with that is that although there's an element of classroom training to everything in a normal scenario, we run our classroom training all the time. So we would encourage people in a normal scenario to, you know, have a look at the dates that are available. But if you've got, say for example, you work as a team manager and you're trying to balance people's annual leave and things like that, perhaps a busy time of year, year end, things like that, and you absolutely can't have someone out the business, that's totally fine. So for example, if I go back to digital applications as a program, we run the classroom training for that sort of every couple of weeks. There's probably one or two at least of each week of classroom training running a month.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really, really flexible, so people can take part in classroom training whenever suits them and suits the business. But there's no start time, so it's not like we have to have an intake of people on the first of the month or whatever. Whenever people want to sign up, they can do. It would just be a case of your assessor would be notified, you'd be added to their caseload, and then they would come out and sign you up to the programme, again in a normal scenario, and then talk about what classroom dates suit you. We would usually say, obviously, for the classroom stuff, try and get yourself on it as quick as possible in the course, because in the classroom, so basically to complete a programme, you have to achieve, say, 10 milestones, and in the classroom, you complete a lot of them. So we would say try and get yourself on as much of that as possible, upskill yourself as soon as possible, and get yourself a good head start on the programme. So you can do it whenever.
Yeah. Cool. It's quite good to have kind of like that flexibility to it. I think once you put a lot of deadlines on things, it kind of starts putting people off, especially if they're having to work at the same time. I think
yeah, people's lives are busy, do you know, like we understand that, so you need to have an element of flexibility in it, definitely.
And I think like just having like those kind of flexible learning kind of makes people kind of want to finish it and go through the course at their own pace, really, like you said earlier. That's
absolutely cool. You know, it's not about putting pressure on anyone, and there's always, you know, as much as I'm saying your assessor will have contact with you every 5 weeks, that's very much scheduled contact. So that doesn't mean that they disappear for the next 5 weeks. You know, if you've got questions, you can email them, you can call them. You will always have a dedicated account manager, such as myself as well. So there will always be people that you can reach out to if you've got any questions about the coursework or even the course in general, work, anything at all.
Would you kind of like recommend kind of companies that are going through kind of these unusual, uncertain times to kind of reach out to you and see what kind of help that you could offer them in terms of like maybe it could be apprentices or courses or things that you could give them? Would you kind of say that could be a really good option for them at the moment whilst things are quiet?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. At the end of the day, you know, I'm quite happy to have a chat with people, see how we can help them. If it's not something that I can do, I'm also, you know, more than happy to direct them in the right direction based on industry knowledge. So yeah, I mean, I've had businesses come to me before and say, look, we do have this particular skills shortage, but business is a little quiet just now. Can you provide me with some ideas as to how we can bring someone in to cover that gap, but at a cost effective sort of way? So we've sort of looked at like apprenticeships, we'd looked at perhaps having someone part-time, for example, that kind of thing, but still a good amount of hours that would give them the opportunity to learn. Possibly putting them on an apprenticeship and then offering them development to a second apprenticeship in year 2, that sort of thing, to grow their skill set for the business. So yeah, there's loads of things we can do. At the end of the day, you know, I'm more than happy to have a chat with people. If we can help them, great. If we can't, you know, that's no bother.
Yeah. It's good that it's kind of like more, you know, you provide the advice as well, not only just, you know, popping people on courses and kind of going through the rigmarole. It's kind of building relationships and making sure that, you know, people are getting good advice, whether it's something you can help with or not. Maybe you could point them in the right direction as well.
Absolutely, and it's the same for our learners as well. You know, so we've got like, for example, a dedicated safeguarding team, and their sole purpose is to look after our learners, and whether that be an issue they're having at work or a personal issue, you know, if they can't afford to get into work, if they can't, you know, if they're struggling with personal issues at home, mental health issues, any health issues, anything at all, you know, we have a dedicated team for that. Obviously, as account managers, you know, I'm more than willing to help any of my learners at any time, but they're trained professionals. So yeah, it's of importance to us. You know, it's not all about getting people onto programs. It has to be the right fit, the right program, the right environment, etc.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so yeah, don't forget, if you have any questions, like don't be scared. Come and ask away. There's no such thing as a silly question today.
Oh yeah.
Just going back to kind of like we were talking about, kind of the classroom, kind of the courses, classroom based. Like, how are they taught? Are they kind of taught like with webinars like this, or is it kind of like workbooks that they have to go through? Like, how does kind of like the course structured, of how they will learn?
Yeah, okay, so classroom training, again, in a normal scenario, you would come into one of our training centres, so whether that be Glasgow or Edinburgh, whatever is best suited to people. So yeah, we would have you come into the training centre. Our training centres are highly equipped, so we've got classrooms set up, we've got breakout areas, and they are central locations. So for example, Glasgow is based in Renfield Street, so it's really, really easy to get to. It's just out with Central Station.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really handy to get to when people do have to come for classroom training. You'll have a tutor who'll be taking the classroom training for the week, and it is very, very interactive. So you'll have team tasks, you'll have loads and loads of interaction, where it's not just a case of traditional methods of someone sitting talking at you for days and days and days. There'll be tasks, there'll be teamwork things. Quite often, if I'm sort of passing to go to the toilet or go to like the kitchen or whatever, you'll have like a group of people out at the breakout areas, which are really sociable areas, and they'll be out doing like their tasks for their classroom training. So it's really good to see. At the minute, obviously everything is remote, but what I would say is it doesn't really make a difference. We're still having that tutor there who will have their whiteboard, and they will be sort of directing the class, if you like, and it will still have an element of interaction to it. So although they can't, you know, necessarily break off into groups just now, it'll be as interactive as possible at the minute, which is positive. Obviously the NPS scores are reflecting that it seems to be going well, which is what we want, you know. So
Cool. I guess for when we do go back into normality, whatever that may be, I mean, is there a vast difference between the classroom taught courses and kind of like the online courses? Because people who possibly, like, they might live in Inverness, they might not be able to make it to the classroom, to the training centres. Like, is there something that they're kind of missing out that the classroom kind of courses get?
So prior to all of this, the only one that we really had online was that marketing one that I mentioned before. Everything else did have a classroom element to it, other than business administration for apprentices. So just because obviously naturally, I think prior to this, we all felt that the human interaction had to be there for learning. Again, it's went really, really well. So I don't know what our business will decide to do. Obviously, with the learning side of our business, we've been doing attend from anywhere and things like that for a long, long time anyway, where perhaps, you know, a course is only running in, say, Manchester, but, you know, businesses don't necessarily want to move 5 of their IT team down to Manchester for a couple of days and pay travel and accommodation and whatever. So we've always had the ability to attend from anywhere set up. We've also got booths in our training centres that are a bit more local for people to tune in to training that's maybe happening down south, for example. So I think with us being a technology company, I imagine we will look at it when we get back to some level of normality, whenever that may be. And I think you might see a lot more moving online, or perhaps, just as you're saying, people who are in rural areas maybe joining on remotely to a real classroom. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah. Has this kind of these the circumstances kind of opened up ideas of other online kind of courses that you can offer in the future as well? Is that something that you would be thinking about doing?
I would imagine so, yeah. I think, there's always questions about would this work, but I think now that we've been thrown into it, and it has worked, then I don't see why not. I think there's probably going to be a lot to work with when we go back. We put our tender in every year to Skills Development Scotland for the programmes that we want to run that year. So it's only something that we can do around about sort of March kind of time of year, to win contracts for things. So yeah, it's something that we would probably look at next year, I would imagine, as we can't move on it any quicker than that.
Is there, I'm guessing there's like kind of spaces, limited spaces on the courses. So what kind of key things are you looking for when people are kind of applying for these courses?
So I suppose there's a couple of things. As much as it's open to anyone, again, we want to make sure that we're putting the right people onto the right programmes and that they are going to complete. So it would very much be about, how long have you been with the business that you're working with currently? And I suppose, what are your goals with the job? Are you enjoying it? If someone's maybe not enjoying their job, are they really, really going to stick out a 12-month programme, that sort of thing? We want it to be right for that person, but obviously it has to be right for us too. So we want people who are willing to learn and get themselves stuck into it. It's not a huge amount to ask. As I said, typically it's an hour of study a week. But we would, if people are keen to learn, and I've had many a learner that's been like, can I have some more stuff? Can I have some more stuff? Particularly while we are at home. So as much as I said, individuals who are furloughed can't take advantage of it, any of our live learners just now who started prior to furlough are allowed to continue their learning, which is fantastic, because that just basically means that they're saying to me, I'm sitting at home, I have nothing else to do, please can I have as much work as possible? It's really, really encouraging to hear. So I think it just has to be, the right attitude, a willingness to learn and engage, and obviously take part in the interactive parts like the classroom training. I know for project management, they quite often run like study sessions and stuff, and as a cohort they will do that, and just they're not mandatory, but getting involved in as many of them as possible. That's the kind of people that we're looking for.
Have you had anyone kind of apply for a particular course, and once you've kind of assessed their application, you found that they're actually more suitable for another course that you offer?
Yeah, I would say so. You see that more, I would say, at our apprenticeship day, when our engagement team, will bring people in and say, what programme is it you're here for? And they'll maybe say, for example, I'm here for digital marketing. And then once they've had the presentation and understand properly what that looks like, and it's came to the point where they're just about to do their tests. So the tests are specific to the programme that you're doing. So they would be about to do a digital marketing test, and then they'd maybe, with the new information that they have, we see quite a lot of people changing the programme that they want to do, which is only a good thing, because it means that we're doing something right with the apprenticeship day, that they realise, actually no, that's not what I wanted to do, it's this kind of thing. So yeah, you see that mostly there. In terms of, I would say, in terms of people who already work at organisations, it's always quite consultative anyway. So we would sort of ask them about their job, and we would more tell them, in our opinion, what would suit their role better. And there's other offerings as well. So for example, if someone works in digital marketing, I would present those two options to them, the online and the classroom options. But there's also a third option, which is digital skills, which is a hybrid of marketing and software and web development for anyone who markets for the business, but also looks at maybe front end web design stuff and would like a bit of coding knowledge as well. So yeah, we can blend those two together, for example. So if I was speaking to someone who worked in a marketing role, I would be wanting to find out what they do day to day, what they need to do for the business, what's going to add value to the business, and then sort of recommend a programme based on the information that they give me, usually.
That's cool that they can kind of like do a hybrid of things, because I think, for example, digital marketing, you could find yourself kind of dipping into the world of coding and you're like, I have no idea. So it's always really good to kind of at least get some knowledge under your belt.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with the software and web development, what I would say as well is, excuse me, if some of the languages that we cover, you don't think, we don't use that language, or we use WordPress or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the concept itself is applicable and we've seen it be applicable. So it's kind of like learning a language. Once you sort of understand one, you understand the concept and how to pick up others. So even if we don't cover, which we may do, we may not, the specific language that you use, it's all, you know, relevant, I would say.
Building blocks to the next language. Yeah. Cool. I think I probably just have one more question for myself. Sorry, I've kind of like taken over, but
no, thank you. It was all good questions.
In terms of kind of like applying, would it be the responsibility of the individual within the business to kind of start the application, or would it be the business itself? So for example, if I decided to go to my employer and I'm like, I've just seen a course I really like, can I apply for it? Would it be kind of the onus on them to kind of start the application process, or would it be the employee?
It can really be either. We've had people approach us directly. We've had people go through their employer. The only thing is that in any circumstance, your employer has to be on board with it and they have to have given it the go-ahead prior to start. So if someone's coming to us as an individual and says, I'm really, really interested in this course, we would have expected them to have either had the conversation or be coming to me for more information to then present to their employer. And we can help with that as well. You know, I've happily spoken to employers for people and put it across and explained how it works and things. But because it is work-based, and your line manager, for example, at times will have to provide like a witness testimony for you, and when we're back in the office every 10 weeks, you know, an assessor is going to be coming out to the workplace. So they obviously need to be on board with that. But most, I mean, there's very few times when a company wouldn't be on board with that. Because again, just come back to what I said earlier, obviously you're investing in your staff, you're allowing them to complete training, which is keeping them engaged, keeping them motivated, happy to be there and working for that company. And it's not costing the business anything either. So you don't get it very often. But yeah, so anyone can come to us. It can be the employer or it can be the individual.
Are there any problems, like if, for example, an individual starts a course and then 3 months down the line, they've changed jobs that might not be so applicable to the course anymore? Do they then have to leave the course, or can they still continue?
So you can change jobs. We've had people change jobs. If it's the same type of role-ish, then you can transfer it to another employer. It doesn't stick with the employer, it sticks with the individual. So they can move job. It would depend. It's hard to give a sort of definite answer to that, because I suppose it would really depend how much of it they were doing that was still applicable. It doesn't have to be 100% the exact same, but if there was still a good element of it, then we would be able to transfer it across. And we'd do what we could. If, for example, at the start you'd picked modules and units that reflected your current role, and then things changed, then we could change some of the modules and units to reflect your new role. But as long as you were still, so for example, if you were in a marketing role and doing the marketing qualification, then you moved to a role that was nothing to do with marketing, we'd probably say, listen, you're going to really struggle with this. But if there's still an element of it, but it's just a different type of marketing, then you should be fine.
Cool. All right, that's really interesting. Cool.
Thank you.
If anyone doesn't have any more questions, just say thank you to Ashleigh for joining us today and for spending the time to kind of tell us a bit more about QA and the courses available. Before we go, we do have another CodeBase on the Couch next week. We're just waiting on the final details of that. So if you just want to keep an eye out on our website. In the meantime, if you want to get in contact with Ashleigh, her details are up on the screen there. If you do miss it, just give us an email or a message on any of our platforms, and I'm sure one of us will be able to help. But yeah, if you just want to give a virtual clap to Ashleigh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone for joining us. So yeah, we'll just finish up a little bit early today.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.